There comes a time in life when everything starts to feel a little different, and you can't quite put your finger on it at first, but then you notice it in the little things. The way your kids talk to you, the way they dismiss your concerns, or how they roll their eyes when you offer a suggestion you've spent decades being their guide, their comfort, their foundation. And now you're sitting there wondering, how did we get here? When did respect become optional? You think back to all the times you stayed up late, helping with school projects, working overtime to pay for their future, cheering them on through every success and comforting them through every failure. But now somehow your opinions don't carry the same weight. Maybe they interrupt you. Maybe they make decisions without even telling you. Maybe they say things that sting or act like your needs don't matter anymore. And that hurts more than you'd like to admit. If your children have begun treating you with less care, less patience, or less respect than you deserve, I want you to know first, you are not alone. Many parents feel this silent shift. And second, there's a way forward, not through shouting, not through guilt, not through arguments, but through a new approach, a quiet strength that begins inside you. Today, I'm going to walk you through 6 powerful steps that can change everything. And I don't say that lightly. These steps don't require conflict. They don't require begging or explaining over and over again. Instead, they help you take back your power with calm confidence. If you stay with me till the end, you'll walk away not only with clarity, but with a path to becoming a respected presence in your children's lives. Once again, let's begin. Action 1, stop chasing their approval. Now, I want to say this as gently as possible, but it's also something that needs to be said clearly. One of the most common mistakes I see parents make, especially in later years, is trying too hard to be liked. You start saying yes when you want to say no. You downplay your needs just to keep the peace. You go along with plans you don't enjoy because you think if you do enough, they'll finally see how much you love them. But here's the thing. Love doesn't buy respect, and trying to please someone who already takes you for granted only teaches them that your needs are optional. Approval becomes a drug. You start bending over backward for a moment of validation, and that's where the damage begins. I met a woman named Margaret once, sharp as a tack, full of fire. In her youth, raised 3 kids with love and grit. But when her children became adults, she softened too much. Not in love, but in boundaries. She let them cancel plans on her. Repeatedly, she never spoke up when they criticized her, and she always brushed off their rudeness with excuses. They're just stressed, they don't mean it, but deep down she knew she was shrinking to fit their comfort. She thought if she kept adjusting, they'd come around, but they didn't. They got used to it, and slowly they stopped seeing her as someone they needed to respect. The reality is, when you put yourself last, you teach others to do the same. And the more you chase their validation, the more you lose yourself. Respect isn't something you can pull from others. It's something you grow from within. And when you start showing that you respect your time, your values, your peace, they start noticing. I'm not saying stop loving your children. I'm saying stop living for their approval, because that's not love. That's fear, fear of conflict, fear of being alone, fear of not mattering anymore. But let me tell you, the second you start choosing yourself, they'll feel the shift. It might take time, but that energy, that self-respect, it radiates, and people can't help but respond to it. Margaret made changes. It was slow at first, but she began to speak up. She stopped rearranging her life for last-minute requests. She let her children know when their tone crossed a line. And while they pushed back at first, eventually they adjusted. They saw their mother not just as someone who gave, but someone who stood, and that changed everything. So if your children are showing signs of disrespect, the first thing to do is not to complain or demand better treatment. It's to stop acting like you need their permission to be respected. Start setting your own standard, and the right people will rise to meet it. That includes your own kids. Don't be afraid to say no. Don't be afraid to let silence speak when their behavior is out of line. You don't owe them constant accommodation. What you owe yourself is peace and dignity. And once they see that you're not chasing their approval anymore, they'll start looking at you differently. They'll start realizing you're not someone they can walk over. You're someone they need to meet at eye level. And that is where respect is reborn. Action 2, reclaim your boundaries. Now let's talk about something a lot of parents struggle with, even if they don't say it out loud: boundaries. Sometimes that word makes people uncomfortable because it sounds like putting up walls, but real boundaries aren't about shutting people out. They're about protecting what matters most, your time, your energy, your emotional well-being. And if your adult children have been treating you poorly, there's a good chance some boundaries have gone blurry. Maybe you're the one they always call when they need something, but never when they want to talk. Maybe they show up late, cancel last minute, or speak to you in ways that feel more like commands than conversation. And you let it slide because you love them. But love without boundaries is how disrespect grows. I once sat with a gentleman named Harold. He was the kind of father who dropped everything for his kids. Even in his 70s, if one of them needed money or help with their house or someone to watch the grandkids, he was there. But he told me something that broke my heart. He said, "I don't think they even see me as a person anymore, just a tool for their convenience." And you know what that told me? He had spent so many years giving that he forgot how to say enough. And that's where boundaries come in. A healthy boundary sounds like I'm not available at that time, or I'd love to help, but I need a little notice, or please don't raise your voice at me when we talk. That's not harsh, that's healthy, that's not rejecting them, it's respecting yourself. And when you respect yourself, guess what happens? People start noticing. You might get some pushback at first, especially if they're used to you always saying yes. They might call you selfish or accuse you of not caring, but that's not the truth. That's just their discomfort with your growth. And growth often feels uncomfortable for those who benefit from your silence. But let me remind you, you are not here to be their emotional punching bag. You are not here to be on call like a service. You are their parent, not their servant, not their doormat, and not their guilt sponge. When Harold finally started setting boundaries, he told me something changed inside him. He said, "For the first time in years, I felt like I had a say in my own life again." And his kids adjusted slowly, but they did it. Didn't ruin the relationship, it repaired it, because now there was mutual respect, not obligation. So if you're feeling unseen, if you're feeling used or taken for granted, take a step back and ask yourself, where have I let things slide too far? And what's one boundary I can put back in place today? Start small, keep it simple, but stand firm, because boundaries aren't barriers, they're bridges to healthier connections. Action 3, speak with power, not pain. This one's important because how you speak determines how you're heard. If your words are laced with guilt or desperation, or if you keep bringing up the past with a tone of hurt, they may tune you out. Not because your feelings aren't valid, but because your delivery makes them defensive. Now I want you to imagine something. Imagine you're in a room and someone walks in calm, grounded, confident. They speak clearly without raising their voice. They say what they mean, and they mean what they say. That kind of presence shifts the room, and you can have that too. I met a woman named Teresa. She'd spent years trying to explain to her adult daughter how her behavior made her feel. And every time it turned into a fight, tears, shouting hurtful words, and nothing changed. But when Teresa started approaching those conversations differently, something shifted. She stopped pleading and started stating. She replaced, "I wish you'd treat me better" with, "I'm not okay with the way I'm being spoken to." She didn't cry, she didn't beg. She simply said what needed to be said with strength and calm. And for the first time, her daughter listened. Not perfectly, not instantly, but it opened the door because Teresa changed the energy she brought to the conversation. So if you've been trying to get through to your kids and it's just not working, try changing the delivery drop, the guilt drop, the rehearsed speeches. Speak from a place of value, not from a place of hurt. You can say something like, "I care deeply about our relationship, and I need us to speak to each other with respect." That's not a demand, that's a boundary. Or you could say, "I won't continue this conversation if the tone becomes disrespectful again." Not a threat, a standard. When your words carry calm conviction, people pay attention because you're not yelling, you're not weeping, you're simply standing in your truth. And there is real power in that. Action 4, rebuild self-respect through purpose. Now this one might surprise you because it's not directly about your kids, it's about, you see, sometimes adult children lose respect for a parent because that parent has lost respect for themselves. Now, I don't mean that harshly. I say it with a full heart because I've seen it too many times. When people hit a certain age, they start shrinking, not just physically, but emotionally, socially. They stop doing things for themselves. They stop growing. And before they know it, they're living through their children, or worse, waiting on them to give their life meaning. And let me be clear, your purpose didn't expire at 65 or 70 or 80. It shifts, sure, but it doesn't disappear. I met a man named Franklin who had been a strong, proud father all his life. But when he retired, he lost his sense of direction. He'd call his kids constantly, check in on everything, offer advice even when it wasn't asked for, and eventually they started pushing him away. And when he asked why, one of his sons said, "Because Dad, you stopped living your own life and started living ours," and that hit him like a truck. But it woke him up. He realized he needed to get back to being Franklin. Not just dad, not just grandpa, but a man with interests, hobbies, friendships, goals. So he joined a local walking group, started mentoring young people at the library, and most of all, he stopped waiting on his kids to validate him. And you know what happened? His kids started calling more, respecting him more, including him more, because they saw a man who respected himself. So if you've let go of your own passions or routines, if you've been putting all your energy into fixing or chasing your adult children, stop, pause, and ask yourself, what did I used to love doing? What makes me feel alive? It doesn't have to be big. It can be gardening, painting, writing, joining a book club, even volunteering once a week. But whatever it is, do it for you. Because when you live with purpose, you radiate confidence, and confidence commands respect, not through force, but through presence. It's not about being busy for the sake of it. It's about being engaged in life, your life. Because your life still matters deeply, and when you start acting like it matters, other people will too. So take that class, sign up for that event, start that journal, pick up that camera. Whatever brings you joy and dignity, that's the road back to self-respect, and from there, respect from others tends to follow. Action 5, forgive wisely, not blindly. Forgiveness is one of those words that gets thrown around like a command, especially in families, and it can get twisted to mean just let it go or stop bringing up the past. But real forgiveness isn't forgetting or pretending everything's okay. It's choosing to release resentment so it doesn't poison you from the inside out. I once spoke with a woman named Jean, whose daughter had said some truly awful things during a rough patch. And years later, the daughter apologized, but Jean was still hurt and didn't know how to move forward. She told me, "I feel like if I forgive her, I'm saying it was okay." And I told her, no, forgiveness doesn't mean what happened was okay. It means you've decided your peace matters more than holding on to pain. And here's the key part: you can forgive someone and still have boundaries. You can forgive them and still decide not to let them close until trust is rebuilt. Forgiveness is about cleaning your side of the street, not pretending theirs is spotless. So if your adult children have wounded you emotionally, financially, even spiritually, it's okay to acknowledge that it hurt. It's okay to say, "I forgive you," and still say, "But I need time," or "But I expect better now." Forgiveness frees you, not them. And when you model that kind of emotional maturity, you don't just gain back their respect, you teach them how to be better people themselves. Some of the most powerful healing I've seen between parents and adult children didn't come from confrontation. It came from quiet strength from a parent who said, "I love you and I forgive you, but I won't let myself be hurt like that again." And that is strength, not weakness. That is leadership, not submission. And that's what real forgiveness looks like. So we've walked through 5 powerful actions you can take to begin regaining the respect of your adult children, and none of them are about manipulation, guilt tripping, or chasing after approval. They're about standing tall in your own life, starting with setting boundaries that protect your peace, then owning your past honestly without shame, but also without excuses, followed by listening to, understand even when it's hard, even when it stings, because that's what real connection is built on. Then we talked about rebuilding self-respect by rediscovering your purpose, your joy, your independence, and finally forgiving wisely in a way that honors your healing, not just the other person's comfort. And now maybe you're thinking, okay, I've heard it all, but where do I actually start? What's the first step? And here's my answer. Start wherever your heart pulled hardest. Maybe it was the part about boundaries. Maybe it was forgiveness. Maybe it was listening without defending that part that made you go, oof, or yeah, that's the place to begin. You don't have to fix everything in one day or even in 1 year. You just have to take one step, one action, done with love, courage, and clarity. And I'll be honest, some adult children may not come around right away. Some may never fully re-engage the way you hope. But that doesn't mean you failed. It means you took the high road. It means you became the kind of parent who can stand proud regardless of anyone else's choices. And here's the deeper truth. When you live from that place of grounded dignity, you start attracting respect from everyone, not just your kids, people at church, neighbors, friends, even strangers pick up on that energy because it's rare and it's powerful. So please don't give up. Don't shrink yourself down. Don't let anyone tell you that respect is a young person's game or that you missed your chance, because that's just not true. Every day is a new page, and you are still the author of your own story. You can write a new chapter starting today, and yes, that chapter may include some pain and some distance, but it can also include healing, renewal, even reconciliation. I've seen estranged relationships mended after decades. I've seen adult children who swore they'd never come back walk through the door in tears because a parent dared to show up differently, dared to lead with love and not fear. And you have that power too. You really do. So whether your kids live across the country or across the street, whether they're warm or distant, whether they're calling every week or not at all, you can start today by showing them who you really are. A person of wisdom, strength, humility, and deep unconditional love. And that's the kind of person who earns, not demands, respect. And here's one last thing. If no one's told you this recently, I want you to hear it. You matter. You are still needed. You are still valuable, and you are still loved. And if your relationship with your adult children is hurting right now, please don't carry that pain alone. Reach out to a counselor, a support group, a trusted friend, or even just start writing in a journal, because your voice deserves to be heard. This journey of regaining respect is not about winning. It's about reconnecting, not just with your kids, but with yourself. And when you do that, everything else starts to shift. So take that first step, whatever it looks like, and trust that it's enough, because you are enough right now as you are. Thank you for spending this time with me and for having the courage to face something that so many people just try to ignore. And if this message helped you, I hope you'll pass it along to someone else who needs it. Because we heal better when we heal together. Until next time, be gentle with yourself, be patient with your process, and never stop believing that change is possible, because it is, and it starts with you.